Now that we have learned both about direct object pronouns and indirect object pronouns, we're going to put them all together and use them both in the same sentence. So we learned that direct object pronouns are me, te, lo, and la, nos, los, and las. Over here, we learned that indirect object pronouns are me, te, le, nos, and les. So we're going to take those same sentences that we've used both with direct objects and indirect objects and use them in order to combine both the direct object pronouns and the indirect object pronouns in the same sentence. So when you're doing this, there are a couple rules that you have to follow. Number one, the indirect object will always come first. Number two, you need to make sure that you remember that both pronouns with the indirect object coming first go before the conjugated verb. And lastly, whenever you're using a le or a lace, at the same time you're using a lo, a la, a los, or las, you have to get rid of the le or the lace and change it to say. And we'll have some examples for you. We'll show you how to do that. So, for the first one we have is we bought the food for her. So we had done this individually with just direct objects, then just indirect objects. Now we're going to take everything out in order to change it to we bought it for her. And that's going to be the end result. So, in Spanish, we have nosotros compramos la comida para ella. So we had talked about with direct objects, we can get rid of this la comida because it's singular and feminine and change it to la. And then with the indirect object, we had talked about we can get rid of this para ella and replace it with le. So here's when that rule comes back into play. We have to put both of these pronouns before this compramos, because that's the conjugated verb. However, we can't have a le next to a la, because we talked about you can't have two third-person pronouns next to each other. So therefore, when you rewrite it, this le becomes a se, and you get nosotros se la compramos. Alright, next example. They passed the tests for us. And by the time we get done with this sentence, we want to say, they passed them for us. So therefore, we need to put ellos pasaron los exámenes para nosotros. Okay? So, they passed the tests for us. Exámenes, it's plural, and it's masculine because we have a los here. So therefore, we can cross that out and put los there. Para nosotros, we can cross that out. We replace it with nos. So, remember we have to put both of these before the conjugated verb. So when you put them back, remember that the indirect object goes before the direct object. And because it's not, nos is not a third person, it's a first person pronoun. You know that say rule does not exist because it's not a le or a lace. So therefore you just rewrite it. Nos, los, pasaron. Then, the very last one we had was she gave him a massage. Change up the sentences just a little bit. Okay, we want to say she gave it to him. So therefore, when we rewrite it, we have ella dio un mensaje a él. So, remember, we need to get rid of mensaje and a él. So therefore, un mensaje, we know that that's going to be singular, and the un shows us that it's masculine, so we can get rid of that and put it as a lo. A él falls under the he or she category for le, so we can get rid of that and replace it with le. And here we go, we're running that same rule again, where if you have two the third person pronouns, you have to change this le to a se. So when you put it back at the beginning, ella se lo dio. And that is how you use direct object and indirect object pronouns in the same sentence.